Good day. It is session 2 on Tuesday the 26th of May, and we're delighted to have back today Pastor Reese and Pastor Jeff Dowdy. And so we want to cover very briefly 3 questions that all church families will need to consider and how we respond to as we reopen. So Chris, let me ask you, first of all, most of our churches traditionally as we worship have been passing a plate to receive the tithes and offerings of the congregants. So that's going to have to be adjusted probably, or some churches will choose to. What do you plan, or what have you discussed with your leadership team about how you receive tithes and offerings?
Thank you, Barry. That last Sunday that the churches met before we had to stop gathering together, we had put into place to where the offering was going to be at the end of service, and we had containers at the exits as people were leaving, and they could drop their offering as they were going out the door. We found that worked well, and that's what we'll plan to do in the days ahead.
Okay, thank you. So they'll be able to give as they arrive, or as they leave, or any time when they
As they leave.
As they leave is when that will be received. Okay. Some churches in Buncombe County will continue to choose, or have been choosing, to do a meet and greet time of fellowship, whether, during the time of worship, they'll take a moment to do that. Some churches have coffee stations or places where they can pick up bottled water or information. And so most of the time that would be in a foyer-like setting, which would be difficult to social distance. Will that affect Enka Baptist or not? And, the foyer situation, how will you address that?
Well, Perry, we traditionally at Enka have not done the meet or greet. That was something that they had taken out long before I'd ever come there. Initially, they had taken it out just during flu season, but then it got to the point where they just stopped doing the meet and greet altogether. So that works out well for us during this time. We will have our doors open going into the sanctuary. They'll be propped open, and we'll also have people encouraging them, to go on in and sit down. But we as Baptists, we love to congregate, we love to talk. So the best we can do is just encourage them to go ahead and exit the building, especially if you're going to run 2 services, because you've got to have that time to clean in between. So we'll, as kindly and gently as we can, we'll encourage them to leave as quickly as they can.
Thank you. One more question in this session. Has your leadership that surrounds you discussed with you, and if you had conversation about masks, how will you make those available? I know there's a diversity of opinion in any congregation about how we should deal with that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the question about to wear a mask or not to wear a mask is a very touchy subject, as you well know. With a lot of people, there are strong opinions on both sides. We will encourage our people if they to wear a mask, but obviously you can't require it for them to be able to come to service. We will hopefully have some available for people there as they come in, and but we will encourage people to come as they are comfortable.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris, thank you for joining us today. It's good to see you today on Tuesday, May the 26th. Pastor Jeff Dowdy of the Swannanoa First Baptist Church is here with me also. And so, Jeff, let's talk real quickly about, traditionally in Baptist churches, we give people an opportunity to give a tithe and an offering. Traditionally, for many years, many churches will pass a plate to do that. Your leadership at Swannanoa First Baptist and your discussions with your leadership, how do you plan to receive tithe and offerings when you reopen?
Sure. So for probably the last few years, last 2 or 3 years, we've been pushing people more to online giving through Lifeway Generosity. Mm-hmm. And so that has actually helped us when we went to this time. That number has jumped. So we've moved a lot of people to online giving.
Okay.
Now in the actual building at the service, we'll have offering plates at exits for them to be able to drop their offering off and to be able to leave it there. We will not pass a plate normally have done, just to try to, once again, keep anything from happening. Just a quick story on that. The week before we shut down, a lady came to me and said, you might be thinking about not passing the plate because a young boy was sitting just on her row and he sneezed into his hands, then grabbed the offering plate and passed it down. That just tells you how something could spread on the offering plate. So that pretty much told us, all right, we're going to move to just having it at the exits.
I'm not sure I'll ever be comfortable being the 50th hand that
Right.
takes the offering plate
Right.
any longer as it passes. Since we're on that, talk to us a little bit about paper goods such as bulletins or music material.
Sure.
How do you anticipate?
So we sing off of a screen for the vast majority of the time.
Okay.
We do have hymnals in the pews. We've talked to a few folks. Some of them use them to write notes on. So they do take them out of the pews. So we're going to give instructions if we do sing out of them, or if they just take it to write a note on, is to leave it in the pew, not put it back into the rack, and then we'll wipe that down before putting it back into the rack.
Okay.
As far as bulletins go, we will print a smaller amount, and then we will place them on the pews before people arrive for the service. So when they get into the service, they simply have it sitting on the pew. We're not going to be passing those out. And then encouraging them, don't leave the bulletin, go ahead and take it with you.
Okay.
Just so we don't have all that sort of lingering paper. Because we are planning on having 2 services, a 9 a.m. and an 11 a.m. And so we'll need to be able to clean in between. And part of that cleaning is getting rid of anything, trash, or anything that's left over. And we would just like to have that be able to be removed. I think what's going to take, Perry, is a lot of cooperation with our church. And we've talked a lot about that term. Everybody's going to have to help us out with that.
Exactly. Some churches still have a meet and greet time. Some might not. Coffee stations, places where people would gather to have some fellowship, a foyer or another designated area. Share any thoughts that you've had about how you could address that at Swannanoa first.
So in the beginning, we are planning on having a one-way in and a one-way out. So
Okay.
one way into the sanctuary only. We're not going to open up the other parts of the building. So to have one way in and then there'll be one way out. We're hoping that helps to, this is terrible to say, to minimize fellowship. We don't want to minimize it, but you've got to do something to try to move people through. That would keep them out of that foyer area. In the beginning, we won't be serving any coffee, water, any of that sort of things. We're going to turn off of our water fountains so they won't be accessible, just to try to once again minimize any sort of cross-contamination or that people might bring those sorts of things. And then just trying to encourage people, hey, it seems to be keep a social distance, but outside you might have a better shot of having some fellowship just in the parking lot, but not inside the building, especially when you try to clean and move people through.
Yeah. Might be a good opportunity in the local church today to encourage people to bring their own bottle of water, if they have to have water.
It's a good word.
In
Yeah.
worship, or even a cup of coffee, possibly. If they're still drinking their coffee at that time in the morning. So, various opinions are there concerning masks and the usage of masks. How do you perceive that First Baptist Swannanoa will, if they will make those masks available, and how will you address the usage of masks?
So as I think Chris said before, and we've had this discussion, everybody's got an opinion. Some people are like, I don't ever want to wear a mask. Some people are like, I have to wear a mask and everyone else should wear a mask.
Yeah.
We're encouraging our people, first of all, to come with a spirit that just says, hey, some people are going to wear masks and some people aren't. And you're going to be okay with that. Not judging, not pointing finger, and not trying to blame others, but just having a spirit, once again, of cooperation through this. We're going to suggest masks, but not require them.
Gotcha.
And we're going to try to see how that goes. I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to play itself out as we go throughout this time to see how we do it. We are trying to figure out ways. We had a few people sew masks. We also feel like those masks need to go to really essential workers. We've had to go to some of the veterans nursing home in Black Mountain. So maybe we won't provide the masks there at the church.
Gotcha. And by now, at this point in time in the pandemic, I would think that most people would have their own mask that they'd be comfortable in wearing, possibly. So Jeff, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Wednesday, the 27th.